Hi, you might remember this face. Handsome Rex Patrick, former independent senator in the Australian Senate, and now a transparency warrior, right, Rex?
That's
So I'll
right.
let you tell everyone what that means, but I've just got to explain why Rex is here. He's here to give our staff training on freedom of information request, the process, how to go about it, and how to hold people accountable. Because Rex and I, different on quite a few things. He thinks the world's going to end if we don't do something about our industries. I don't. But Rex and I both believe that information is the key to democracy. So, good to you.
Yeah, look, Malcolm, as you understand more than other people with your role in the Senate, particularly as a senator, one of your jobs is to keep an eye on what it is the government's doing and to hold them to account. And of course, you can't do that unless you've got access to information. And look, there are many tools that you have available to you to try and get information. You can put questions on notice. You can ask questions at question time. You can seek to have the documents presented to the Senate, or you can even get an inquiry up to examine issues. One of the tools that is also available to a senator and their staff is to conduct FOI, and importantly,
Freedom of information.
To freedom of information, but importantly, as we have discussed today, is that freedom of information is really good because even regular citizens, and especially regular citizens, can also put in FOI requests asking for information. So if they're not happy with the government and what they're doing, they can, of course, contact you, but they can also themselves put in an FOI request. It's a very simple thing to do, and seek to get access to information that helps them better understand the government and allows them to then debates about what it is that's going on.
And I'm treated no differently in the freedom of information request than a citizen who's not in the parliament.
That's exactly right.
We're all treated.
That's exactly right. So people are allowed to access government documents under freedom of information legislation, and it doesn't matter whether you're a senator, an MP, a doctor, a nurse. It doesn't matter. You're entitled to have access to information. It's a relatively inexpensive process. In the federal domain, there's no cost to ask for that information, and you simply run through a process where the government may try and oppose you, in which case you have avenues to challenge their claims that documents shouldn't be released. The reality is that everything the government does on the taxpayer's coin.
Yep.
And they are supposed to be doing it for the purposes of helping Australians, for the governing of Australians. It's not government information, really. It's your information. It's information that is
our information.
Yeah, that's been paid for by you, and indeed is purportedly for public benefit. So we exceptions to that. We don't really have access to some of our or maybe access to the things the police are doing to stop crime. Quite reasonable. Some information is held from us. But for example,
With not only voters, it's also as an MP sometimes security interests.
that's appropriate. There are things that it's in to
Many
not to with either senators or members of the public. So, and you'll know that it's back in 2021. I took on.
Well, thanks for the comment. We didn't realise the sound wasn't very good, so we try to speak more into the microphone, Rex. And, not that you need a microphone.
Yes, look. So, we're just talking about the important fact that the fact is that when the government produces a report or when they examine something, when they're looking into something, it's actually the taxpayer that's paying for
Yep.
that information. And that information is being produced for public purpose. It's our information. And as a result, we're entitled to see it. And that's what freedom of information legislation does. It creates a legally enforceable right for people to have access to government documents. Now, there are some things that the government rightly keeps secret. Things like military capabilities or policing operations. We don't want everyone to know about those. And so we don't share that sort of information under FOI. But if it's, for example, a health policy, stuff I know that some of your listeners or followers would be interested in, vaccine policies, border closure policies, policies that restrict liberties and so forth. If the government wants to do those things, they have to be open and transparent and let everyone see the arguments and the information upon which they are basing their decisions. So, if there's a particular issue that people are interested in, they can go along and put in an application. Really simple. You just go to a government website to the right department and basically put in a request that says, this is a request for the purposes of the Freedom of Information Act. I would like access to whatever the document is or whatever the information is that you're interested in. And then you go through a process where the government will hopefully release the information to you. And if they don't, you can challenge that. So it's an important tool that's available to not just senators, but to members of the public to be able to directly ask for government information.
And it's a tool that I have used back in 2013 with the CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology, and it was quite effective. It gave me a number of startling points that I'll share more one day. But
well, you can never have too much information. My saying is that an FOI a day stops democracy.
That's good. Training today, I'm going to get that out of the way first. Look, we had a break, and in that break, several of my staff came to me and said it's bloody good. Very, very effective. I'll tell you why. Because the content, there was no superfluous crap in there. It was just material that was relevant on FOI, and it was simplified, and it was put within a context and how we could use it in the Parliament and outside Parliament. It's very practical. I know you've been an expert in using FOI. You do it for other people. So if you need training, because you'd be open to training people in companies, not just politicians.
Absolutely. So I can train sort of the larger organisations in how to do FOI if they want to. Sometimes you'll find that companies might not want to initiate FOI requests because, sadly, sometimes government departments can be quite vindictive. So the other thing, if there's a company that really wants some information about the area that they're working in, so trying to understand what the government is doing, or in fact why they might have been unsuccessful in what it is that they were trying to achieve with the government, sometimes it's better to come to someone like me and I ask for the FOI. That's a paid service.
Queensland. Oh, well, anyone can go to you, and you can do it on behalf of anyone.
I can do it on behalf of them, so that they remain anonymous.
And I can do it on behalf of a constituent as well.
You
but
can that's right.
You've got a dedicated service to do FOI.
That's correct.
And you're looking at hundreds of dollars, not tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If it's an organisation, it's a couple of $100s to kick off, and you might end up getting to the point where you're contesting what the government's saying, that maybe they haven't given you all of the information, and that may involve writing some sort of submission. But I'm pretty used to that. I know the space very well, so I can do that. And look, I'm at the end of my career. I'm not trying to, I'm not using this as a mechanism to create wealth. I really just want to help people.
I've got to say your rate is reasonable, very reasonable.
And look, my view at this stage in life is just help people that need help. Obviously, I can't do it for free, but do it at a reasonable price.
And I can vouch for Rex because he's not charging a lot of money for this, and also you've been passionate about unearthing material information from the government for many, many years. You've refined the process, and you are trying to get politicians in particular to be interested in this so they can use it more effectively for parliamentary procedures as well.
Yeah, so your office is not the only office I've trained. I have trained another senator's office, and there's about 4 or 5 other senators that are quite interested. The press gallery is interested in doing some training as well.
Maybe they can start telling the truth.
So, well, it's about getting access to proper information.
Exactly.
There's never any harm in having access to more information. If you want to have debate, what you really want to have is informed debate, and that means you need timely access to the best information, and then you can develop the best policies and the best approach if you've got access to really good information. I mean, there's other things like some of the people following you may well have seen over the last probably 48 hours. There's been a bit of a rumble in the media because Anthony Albanese is not prepared to disclose his diary. Now, I'm the origin of that thorn.
Well done.
In that I put in a request back in December for access to Anthony Albanese's diary. Now, my view is that we're entitled to see who Anthony Albanese is
I
meeting.
think someone's saying that's a satanic hand gesture.
Oh, is it? Okay, sorry. Sorry. My apologies. But,
yeah, I can see the horns coming out of your head, actually,
sure.
and the tail coming up.
But
he's not a Satanist,
no.
I can tell you that.
The fact is that
Bye, Angela.
the Prime Minister works for us, and we're entitled to have a look and see how often is he spending time in his office, how often is he going out on the hustings and seeing people. Is he spending a lot of time overseas? Has he met with the Chief of Defence Force? There's no security issue with a diary entry that says met with Angus Campbell, General Angus Campbell, and in fact we'd probably be concerned if he wasn't meeting with the Chief of the Defence Force. So there's strong legal precedence that says that we should have access to ministerial diaries. In fact, here in Queensland...
Didn't Mark Dreyfus get access to someone's diary when he was in the opposition?
Well, it's interesting because he actually argued the seminal case into access for diaries. So he wanted access to then Attorney General George Brandis's diary.
That's right.
And he took it all the way to the federal court, and the federal court supported the principle that we ought to have access. In fact...
And now the government doesn't want to give you access.
Well, look, I have to be fair. I think Tony Burke has released his diary. I think Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, has produced his diary. But for some reason, the Prime Minister thinks that he's very special and he doesn't have to show anyone his diary. And look, I'm going to get that diary. So I just don't understand why he's doing that. But just to give you some perspective on this, Premier Palaszczuk releases her diary on a regular basis. The Chief Minister of the ACT releases his diary on a regular basis. You can go to the White House website and you can see the visitors log. Every person that's been to see the President, that isn't a staffer or is not there for just a personal visit, because obviously the White House is his home as well. So it's not groundbreaking. I do not understand why Anthony Albanese is withholding access to his diaries. I think that issue won't go away. But there's a good example of just stirring the pot and my strong belief in transparency.
Well, Anthony Albanese has campaigned on the issue in leading up to the election, and also on since he's become Prime Minister. But he's claiming that he needs to be open and consultative and transparent, and we've seen anything but that. We've just seen that he's made a complete gaffe over his comments with Ben Fordham on The Voice, and then he released a transcript and then changed the part where he was very embarrassed with the transcript. I mean, you don't do things like that.
No, you can't.
So this is about holding politicians in positions of power, like ministers in the government specifically, accountable. Can I read out some of these quotes from your manual?
Absolutely.
So Ralph Nader said, "A well-informed citizenry is the lifeblood of democracy, and in all arenas of government, information, particularly timely information, is the currency of power." And that's exactly right. What's your favourite abbreviation of Ralph Nader there?
Well, he says that the shortened version of that is information is the currency of democracy.
So I'm going to finish now because we've got a couple of other things we've got to do. This is only a quick update. I'm going to finish by saying that we will continue to use the accepted practices that we have used in Parliament, Senate estimates, etc., to keep holding governments accountable. We're going to use FOI now because you've made it so much easier for us to get our head around. And I'm going to finish on these two quotes from a very, very well-known person. Transparency is a word only shouted by members of Parliament from opposition benches, not in government. That was said by Rex Patrick in 2022. And another one, as you've already just said, an FOI a day stops democracy decay. So I want to thank you very much for being a transparency warrior. How do people get hold of you?
They can go to my website, www.transparencywarrior.com.au, and there's all the contact information that is needed there. There's also now a new page on a project called Prime Minister's Diary Watch.
Keep smiling. And what was the other one, or is that not ready for
I don't know. There's
Argus
I'm actually helping out a Project Argus, which is named after a Greek mythical creature that had 100 eyes, and so it kept a really good watch on things. And look, I am helping a number of parliamentarians with their FOI.
Doing it for them.
Yeah, doing it for them. So the criteria that I've been given as a benefactor has basically paid for me and one of my former advisors to assist people who are independents. So that means not part of a party structure.
Yep.
And basically I go off and help them do FOIs. So I don't look at any colour of politics. I simply say that politics is better off for having more information available to it.
Yes, and we recognise that information is the key because that's why we ask so many questions, particularly in Senate estimates. So thank you for giving us another arrow in our arsenal, and thank you for it was very well put together and thoughtful, and thank you for being of service to the country by using the skills you developed in the Senate on FOI. Thank you so much, Rex.
Yeah, thanks. You're welcome, Malcolm.